Story. Luffy's wanderings had led him all over the hotel. First to the kitchen, where he ate as much as the cooks would allow him, and then to the courtyard outside. He sat there now. It was about 5 p.m., and he paced around the gardens looking for something to do. He wandered for a while before he realized there was nobody there. Realizing this, he fell back onto a bench and pulled his legs up to his chest, resting his head on them in a manner that allowed his gaze to remain on the gardens. He had really hoped that this game would be fun and action-packed, but all he had done was walk through some grass. He wondered what the others were up to. Nothing Zoro and Sanji couldn't handle, he was sure, but he was more worried about Robin's group. He knew that when push came to shove, Chopper could defend himself, and Robin could too, but Usopp was a bit more of a worry. And it sounded like that wasn't even the issue. It wasn't a test of strength, it was a test of wits. This put him at ease. Of the members in his ship, the ones with less fighting capability had good brains in their heads. If only the same could have been said for his fighters. He sure knew he was as dumb as they get, and that it put all the other people around him in constant danger. Like his brother, who had died because his own brother wasn't strong enough to look after himself. Oh no, Luffy thought, here we go again. Nami's first stop was the kitchen, knowing food would be the first thing aboard Luffy would think about. She pushed the large doors open and stepped into the cafe-type foyer. There were small tables scattered around the room, and the opposite wall had windows built into it that opened onto the kitchen. She walked up to one and stuck her head in. "Hello," she called. One of the men passing by hurried up to her. "How can I help you?" he asked. "I am looking for a teen wearing a straw hat who has a massive appetite," she said, wincing at how this was the best description of her captain. The man chuckled and nodded. "He's come through here. You just missed him." He looked past her and pointed to the door opposite the one she had come through. "He went out that way, so I'd probably recommend checking the gardens." "Thanks," Nami said, waving as she turned and ran out the way he had pointed. The man watched her go, and an older woman appeared behind him. "What a strange group we have at the moment," she said. The man in the window just nodded, before returning to his work. Nami headed in the direction the man had pointed out to her and eventually ended up in the garden. For some reason, she got a feeling she would find her captain there. "I have a proposition for you, since you're clearly an intelligent woman," the second masked figure said. "I have a block of ruins here. If you can read what's written on them, I will let you go free." Robin breathed a barely detectable sigh of relief. My God, had she been lucky. "Sure thing," she said. "Let's see it." The masked figure leaned down and pulled up what appeared to be a miniature poneglyph. It says, "Here lies our beloved king. Born 1406, died 1500. Robin deciphered. The man removed his mask, horrified. "You are a truly remarkable woman," he gasped. The girl lowered Usopp down and he clambered onto the floor, pulling the gag off his mouth and standing up. "Haha, those two didn't scare me. I never doubted you for a second, Robin," he lied, shaking. Robin chuckled and turned to the man. "What now?" she asked. Promoted stories. You'll also like A Second Chance One Piece fanfiction. 384K 8.8K. Complete. Finally, after years of fighting, Monkey D. Luffy arrives at Lawtail and becomes Pirate King. But he has lost a lot to get here. All of his friends are Dia. 3D2YA One Piece fanfic. 367K 6.2K. Luffy stumbles upon Nami by chance on a small island after the crew was separated at Sabayati Archipelago. The two decide to train together, but then comes the warm, weird, Broken Hearts Doflamingo X Reader. 4.4K 325. A woman who has had several adventures with her crew has recently encountered an island that would bring her and her crew into ultimate doom. losing her captain and her. Isaac the Sky Boy. 2.8K86. Open hollow lens bracket Roronoa Zoro X self-insert OC, One Piece Netflix adaptation, close hollow lens bracket, an alternate version of Enquat, the Isacod Pirate Enquat, based on the One Piece live action. Mysterious Girl on the Straw Hat Ship 1. 7.8K 418. YN, a kind, lovely and beautiful girl who died while saving puppy got transmograt into world of pirates. She also have unique power, as long as she wish any anime power. Nurse One Piece Law X Reader. 166K 5.9K. Ongoing. Story begins in Sabayati Archipelago, the Wicked Witch of the West. That's literally what YN is if you think about it. A witch from the West Blue. I need you more, Luffy x Nami. 20.5K 297. In the wake of their new victory in Wano, time spilled into the hands of Luffy and Nami. Recognition of their silent feelings wailed in their hearts like aches, Kraken. Well, we will now take you to the main village where you will spend the night. He stuttered, standing. Please excuse us for a second. The two exited the room. It seems extremely fortunate that the two almost impossible questions they gave us were ones that I could answer. Robin commented. Yeah, Chopper agreed. Only our crew and the people from that town would have known that Rapa Nui wrote that book. Isn't it funny that the book actually features us? Usopp laughed. Robin chuckled. You could say that. The two returned with the little boy from earlier. You three have a choice, he said, completely calm. You can stay here in the village for the night and move tomorrow. Stay with your fighters, who I believe are still locked up in the cage, or we can take you to Shanty Town where your captain and navigator are being accommodated. I will warn you of two things. One is that Angel will probably be released later tonight, so it will be pretty dangerous in the cage with your men. The other is that your captain and navigator will be held separately until the tournament tomorrow. The three turned to each other, and then spoke simultaneously. We'll go to Shanty Town. Nami had been wandering around the garden for around 5 minutes. She stuck her head around a corner and froze. There he was. Luffy was curled up on a bench on the path, shaking. Again. Luffy, she called softly. He froze and looked up at her, wide-eyed. Upon seeing that it was her, he relaxed slightly, turning his head away and wiping his eyes. Nami sat down beside him and put an arm around him, but he didn't look at her. Luffy? She asked again, concerned. He just pulled his hat down over his eyes. I'm sorry, he said in a voice that sounded so un-Luffy-like that it took Nami a few seconds to process the fact that they were actually his words. What? Nami asked, shocked. What do you mean, Luffy? Why are you apologizing? Her captain sniffed and turned to her, finally. You were looking for me, weren't you? He asked. Yeah. Nami answered, drawing her eyebrows together. Well, I'm sorry to have wasted your time, he said, looking down. I just hate. His voice broke and he paused before continuing in a much quieter voice. I just hate being alone. Nami's eyes widened as she pulled Luffy closer to her. He finally gave in and allowed himself to sink into her embrace, resting his head on her shoulder. Silent tears trickled down his face, and he was still shaking uncontrollably. It occurred to Nami that he was wearing his usual singlet and shorts despite the chilly temperatures and went to pull off her jacket to give it to him, but Luffy stopped her. I'm fine, he whispered. You keep it. Nami sighed and chose instead to pull Luffy onto her lap to keep him warm. She felt herself slowly going pink in the face as she finally realized the severity of her situation. This was not the first time in the last week that she had found herself in that position. Her mind was suddenly brought back to the last time she had held her captain like this, only a few nights earlier. She suddenly went even redder. Hold on, hadn't she kissed him? Was she dreaming or No, she remembered it now, she really had. Are you all right, Nami? Luffy said, raising a hand to her cheek. You've gone all red. Nami, hoping to cover for herself, chuckled. She realized too late that she was, once again, resorting to her captain's methods, but ignored it. Yeah, I'm fine. She said, we should probably head back, you know. They said dinner was at 6, and that clock reads 5:45. Luffy nodded, grinning. All right, he said, suddenly as cheery as ever. Food. He climbed out of Nami's lap and offered her his hand to help her back up. She took it and followed him silently back into the building. They wandered through the kitchen and through the door on the far side. We split up here, Nami instructed her captain. Do you want to meet me on that bench after dinner? Luffy smiled and nodded. Yeah. See you soon. The man watched the screen with an amused grin. Well, well. These two are adorable, aren't they? He said. Yes, sir. One of his subordinates replied. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. He managed to carry the girl through the entire sea of grass earlier today. The man nodded. Yes, I saw that. He managed it with ease. Did you notice how he fights? I believe he is a devil fruit user. The little girl and her brother stepped forwards. Our groups are interesting as well, Game Master. They said. I believe the two boys have a kind of rivalry between them, but considering one is a cook, they are quite formidable. Said the girl. The man nodded again. Yes, and I have two devil fruit users in my group of 3. The boy said. It's funny. One is a reindeer who I believe ate the human fruit. The other one has a strange power I didn't get to see a lot of. She can reproduce limbs on different faces. That is quite strange. The man said. They have 3 people in possession of immense power, but none of them, besides the captain himself, are fighters. This will be quite amusing to watch.